giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast, and here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode. This one's going to be super exciting. We're going to talk about pricing. Now, when I start talking pricing, immediately most ideas go towards service fees. And yes, 100%, we are going to talk about that. But I also want to talk about other elements of your business. I'm hearing a lot of discussion, especially during the boot camp and in the messages I received afterwards, that, oh my goodness, prices are still high. Yeah, they are. They're still high at the grocery store. They're still high at the auto dealership. They're still high if you're buying a home. They're still high on so many levels. Travel's no exception. We still have an astronomical number of people who are wanting to travel. And that's a good thing, but it also drives up prices. See, when we're looking at the price of a product, when we're looking at how much a hotel room costs. I just booked a hotel room for my husband and my father and a friend of theirs that had to make a trip down to Montana for some paperwork. They got the very last rooms in the hotel. And they were like, oh my goodness, it cost how much? And I said, well, your alternative is to sleep in your car. Oh, then that's not such a bad deal. But then once they were in there and they saw the rooms that they got, they were like, whoa, these are nice. Because they weren't getting just a plain old room. They actually, because I had to start combining them, they actually got suites so that multiple people could stay in them, but they all had their own rooms. Oh, well, that changes the perspective. And then because they were there on certain nights, they even got to go down to the lounge and have supper included, and breakfast was included the next day. Oh, well, then in that case, that's a really good price. And now we went from, oh my goodness, it's so much, to this is awesome. That happens so often. And yet as travel advisors, I hear it so much that it's, oh my goodness, I can't get over the pricing. Oh, I would never pay that. I would never this. I would never that. Would I have wanted to pay what they were paying for a hotel just in general? No. But would I want to sleep in my car? Heck no. So in which case I would have paid it, because I had an understanding of what it was. See, we need to explain to our clients what it is that's driving the pricing. We need to have that open and frank conversation with them. If you have clients wanting to travel over Christmas holidays or over the new year, we have to make sure that they understand that that's going to be reflected in their pricing. When your clients are traveling at peak times, be it the summer, be it Thanksgiving, be it the new year, whatever it is, that's going to adjust the price in which they were intended, or that they were going to be paying. The more demand, the more the cost is. The more supply, the lower the cost. It is basic economics of what we learned back in elementary school. That's how pricing gets determined. If there is more supply than there is demand, prices come down. When there's more demand than there is supply, the prices go up. Now, airlines have gotten really good at not necessarily having an excess. It's up to us. It's up to you, actually, as the travel advisor, to be able to convey that to the clients. When you have a client that comes in and they want something specific, they've got this price point or that, then you take a look at things. Oh, it's a whole lot more. Have a look at what's driving the price. Have they chosen to go to a destination that's having some big festival? I went to a conference in Toronto once, and people were horrified at the conference rates on the hotels. But then if you looked at other hotels, these were really good rates. So then we got looking into it. Well, the Toronto International Film Festival was taking place at the same time. No wonder all the hotel prices were through the roof. If you're trying to travel somewhere during major sporting events, major Hollywood events, whatever it is, that's going to drive up the prices. Heck, you try going to a city where Taylor Swift is playing, and I promise you, hotel prices are going to be through the roof during that time because people are going to be traveling from all over. Pricing isn't just a straight across the board type thing. There's a supply and demand. Now, how does that translate over to charging fees? Well, that's where it starts to get a little bit trickier because it's not that there's quote unquote a supply and a demand, but yet there's going to be, because maybe you're not already a fully booked schedule. So in which case you're like, I got a lot more supply than I got demand right now. So how do I price that? The default, unfortunately, becomes to do it for free because we think that we're going to get more business that way. And instead, we develop resentment, we get frustrated, and then 5-6 months down the road, when we are busier, guess what? Those ones that we didn't charge the fee to, now they've got problems. Now they've got questions. Now that they found that the deal is $7 less, they want you to go ahead and get them a refund. You don't have time for that. So how do you come up with your pricing? How do you choose what your pricing should be? Well, recently I've gone through my own pricing struggle. See, on the 1st of May, I launched the Travel Advisor Success Studio. And it was created for a very specific type of advisor. Now, it's open to all travel advisors. But as with anything in business, I created my ideal client who I specifically wanted to have in there. And I also created it for a very specific purpose. So while we have travel advisors from brand new right through to 20 years plus participating inside of the Success Studio, it was genuinely created for those that need to build the foundations of their business. Now, if you've been in business any length of time, you know that those foundations have to be continuously checked and inspected. And that's why it's great for those that have been in for a number of years. But for those that are brand new or newer to travel or newer to business, or just simply aren't getting the growth that they're wanting, it's very much dedicated to them. Now, here's the thing. When you're trying to sell something to somebody who is miles from their goal, you've got to be really careful in how you choose your pricing. The other thing is I realized that we had a really big gap from our free group all the way up to doing our programming. Our Curious to Book, for example, is a $1,000 course. Is it worth it? Yes. And I have no question and no apology for the value that's on that program because I know what comes with it. But that was a really big gap to go from free to $1,000. So how do we find some middle ground in between? Well, that comes from creating a low ticket membership. But how do you actually price something like that? Well, I went through a lot of the same struggles that travel advisors trying to choose their service fee pricing would go through. I could create an argument for every price under the sun, and I could create the opposite argument for every price under the sun. There is memberships out there of all shapes, sizes, and whatnot in the industry. So I did what I did with my expenses at the beginning of the year. I had to look at it away from the emotion of it. I had to look at it away from the setting of it. So in which case, what is the value of what's going to be in there? Well, what was going to be the offer? We're going to have a weekly training. Yes, we were doing weekly trainings inside the free Facebook group. That's now going to drop down to once a month because we needed to create a bigger gap between what's free and what's paid. So once a month, we'll go live inside the free group. But inside of the Success Studio, we will go live every single week and do a very targeted, specific training. What else can we do? Well, we're going to add in a monthly coaching call where everybody that's in the group will get to come onto Zoom with me and ask whatever questions got them stuck in their business. And then we're going to add in quarterly masterclasses where we bring in a speaker or an expert who has even more knowledge than what I have. Okay, now we're on to something. Now we're on to something that's going to go above and beyond what was in the free group. Now, how do we price it? Well, I wanted it to be low ticket because I wanted it to be a no-brainer. Because when we first started out, it was going to be so low that I would know those that were serious about moving their business forward and those that weren't. The problem is when you make it too low, the ones that are kind of that next step over aren't going to take it serious enough. So the best way to do it for me was I created a founding members rate. And that founding members rate is only going to be valid for the month of May of which we launched. So the month of May of 2024. Come June 1st, the price is going to increase. And I can already see where we will have to increase it again as we go forward, because now that we've been in it for a couple of weeks, now that we've done a couple of calls, and I'm starting to get the feedback, and we've created an onboarding survey that we're getting the feedback there, I'm beginning to see, oh, I would love to bring in an expert on this and an expert on this. But see, I don't want it to be a total pitch session. So I'm going to be investing in bringing in those speakers. And because we're going to be paying them to come in, that's going to require money. So in which case, we have to make sure that we're offsetting that. So I know at what milestones everything needs to increase. I know at what milestones we need to increase the price, increase the membership, increase the number of people that are in there. And then the flip of that is, at what milestones do we need to increase what it is that we're offering inside of the group? The beauty is, for all the founding members, they're going to get locked in at like the lowest, best possible price ever, which is amazing. But if they leave, then they will come back at whatever the offer the rate of the day is at that time. So we want to make sure that we're setting the pricing where it is, where it needs to be. But how do you do that when you're doing your service fee? Well, there's a couple of ways. One, you could set a founding member's rate of your service fee, if you will, where this is what it is for the first however many people, for the first however many months, for the first however many whatevers. And perhaps you give them that rate every time they come back. That's one way of doing it, as a way to say thank you for being an early client. Or it just might be for a certain time period. Everybody who books before July 31, everybody who books before December 31, whatever it is, this is what it is. Jasmine Starr, the owner of Social Curators, when she was a photographer, every time that she hit her milestone of how many photo shoots she booked, she increased her price. But see, she set that number not in the moment. She set that number away from being in the moment. I get asked for one-to-one coaching. I've sat down, I've made up a product suite, because if somebody was to ask me, how much is your one-to-one coaching? I think about it with emotion. I think about it with the, oh my goodness, what can they afford? What can't they afford? And I will start to create an entirely different story. But when I do it without emotion, this is just what it is. And in fact, when I do it without emotion, I was also able to build in the milestones. So for this many clients, this is what it is. For this many clients, this is what it is. For this many clients, this is what it is. And it will increase after so many clients book. One, because my time is limited. I can only take on so many one-to-one clients. So therefore, the supply will deplete and the demand is increasing. So that's going to affect the rates. But also, the more one-to-one coaching I do, the better I get at it. See, I have to get better at coaching, even though I know how to sell travel. I have sold tens of millions of dollars worth of travel. but I'm still learning how to become a better coach. So the current coaching I take right now is how to become better at coaching. I can do this other part. I can teach it to you so well, but I've had to learn how to step into the teacher's role. And that becomes part of it for you. So many travel advisors get into selling travel because they were such good travel planners for their own vacations. You could plan, but that's why you now need a coach to know how to sell travel, how to build a travel business, because building a travel business and selling travel is very different than planning your vacation. It sounds like it should be the same thing, but it's actually two different skill sets entirely. See, when you're doing it for yourself, all of your decisions, all of your suggestions, all of your thoughts are very personal to your own wallet. And yet, when you're doing it for somebody else, your wallet's not a factor. Your wallet should never enter the conversation. And instead, it's about them. It's about their decisions. It's about them getting the best possible vacation through the guidance that you're going to provide for them. It's not about the guidance you're going to provide for them through the wallet in which you buy your trips from. So when you're choosing what to put your service fee as, it can be really overwhelming because, again, our own wallets come into the conversation. Our own thoughts come in to what it looks like. What if you picked a number? Big or small, just pick one. I want you to ask yourself, how would that feel? Let's say it was $50. Maybe it was $500. Maybe it was $1,500. How would it feel? Could you do it? If the answer is yes, then hallelujah. Let's move it up a notch. If the answer is no, then I want you to ask yourself why. And the moment the conversation goes to no one in my area pays that, I want you to look at the way you're talking. See, I was working at, I was looking for a new coach. And I participated in a multi-day event that this one coach had put on. And I knew going into this event, I was going to buy their program. And based on my understanding of where coaching programs are at, I was anticipating 10 to 15,000 US would be my investment. All the way through this workshop, summit, whatever we're going to call it, he kept saying, it's less than you think. It's less than you think to work with us. And I knew it was going to be a group setting. And I'm like, oh, well, if it's less than that, if it's less than what I think, and it is group, and he kept talking about how many hundreds and thousands of people they intended to put into this group. I'm like, okay, well, then maybe I am a little high. So instead of 15, maybe it's 10. And then all the way throughout, he kept talking about how you can build your coaching business for just $29.95. Like, get your first group together, $24.95, $25.95. Like, we are talking $2,995. And he just kept repeating that number over and over and over again. And when he wasn't repeating that, he was repeating, it's less than you think, it's less than you think, it's less than you think. And so I had to get on a call to even find out the basics. Here's the thing. When I started that event, I was prepared to invest 10 to 15,000 US. When I got on that call, I was right. It was $10,000 or $99.95. But he had spent so much time talking about how it's less than you think, it's less than you think, it's less than you think. And he kept subliminally dropping this $24.95, $29.95 that he got me thinking that's all it should be. So even though I went into that event anticipating spending $99.95 or more, heck, I'm Canadian, so 10,000 US really is like 15,000 US, or Canadian rather. But because he kept trying to downplay it, kept trying to change the conversation, he changed my expectation. And now I can't buy his program solely on principle. Because if he couldn't stand behind his pricing, if he couldn't own what his pricing was going to be and had to keep saying, it's less than you think, 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 he's not my coach. Because I need somebody who's not going to apologize for the pricing. Because everybody that was in my mastermind, because as our mastermind, we watched this summit together. We had great debate about what the pricing would be. And we all came away with that same feeling of the pricing feels icky. Because he kept trying to downplay it and kept trying to put in other numbers that weren't relevant. When you say nobody in my area will pay that, you're right. Because nobody's going to pay that coming from you when that is the belief that you hold. If you want to have the perfect price, it has to be the perfect price for you. Because when I tell my clients, it costs this much to work with me, I can't blink. I can't stutter on it. I can't stumble. Because when I do, the trust falters. The same is going to happen for you. See, as a travel advisor, you are setting yourself up to have people trust you, that you know how to get them where they're going, that you know how to spend their money, that you know how to best serve them. But if your fee makes you shaken, that's going to leave them shook. See, your fee determines the way you deliver the amount that your fee is, will underline and determine their confidence, what confidence they should have. Because see, if you don't have confidence in what you're charging, it's not going to work. If I told you working with me cost $5,000 for 6 months of one-to-one coaching, it costs $5,000. It is what it is. Now, don't hold me to that price, because as time goes on, that rate changes. But if I said to you, so with 6 months, I'm going to give you lots, and you're going to get like lots of it, and the price is $4,995. Is that okay? I promise you, you are not going to hire me to help you sell more travel. But if I said to you, if we are going to work together for 6 months, my expectation of you is that you are going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this. And in exchange, I will be there to do this, 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 and this for you. And your total investment is $4,995. Are we ready to go ahead and proceed with that? I can send you an invoice. It's an entirely different conversation than the, oh my goodness, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. You know, you can't be scared of knowing how to spend their money. And that starts with owning the fees that you charge. See, if they don't think that you know how to handle the money you get paid, they're not going to think you know how to handle the money they're going to pay the suppliers, or that you know how to do that. You can't apologize for pricing. The price is what the price is. Whether we're talking about the cost of airfare, or we're talking about what else is out there, the hotels, the cruise line, whatever it is, price is the price. Your fee, the price is the price. Don't negotiate. Don't back down. Own it. And never, ever apologize for it. Okay, we will catch you next week on the next episode.